Welcome back to another episode of the Meet Kevin podcast. Today, we are hunting for real estate and figure on the commute. Why not knock out the podcast? Because we've got a lot to talk about, including Marquez having some complaints about the Cybertruck. Everybody's kind of left in confusion. We'll mention it. Left in confusion over this Julia Roberts FSD thing. I think maybe we'll have some more clarity as to what's going on there with FSD and Netflix. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about what Putin's up to again, which is no surprise. Apparently, our government's freaking out about Israel, what to do after all of this, and a lot more aggression and sort of anti-Israel actually coming from the U.S. government. And hey, let's rein this in a little bit here. So let's talk about all of this. But why don't we start with CT here, Cybertruck? What's going on? What's Marquez complaining about today?
Yeah, Marquez Brownlee, who he had a very good first review of the Cybertruck, kind of has I'm not going to call it second thoughts, but like a take two, so to speak, of Cybertruck news. So this is not on his main channel. This is on his long-form podcast-style channel, where some of these pods go for like over an hour.
Yeah.
So I watched
like
part
ours.
of it. Like ours. Some of them go for just over an hour. So here's some quotes that he said. So he opens up the pod by saying, all the numbers except the 0 to 60 mile per hour are worse than they promised. This is the first time that's true for Tesla. I feel like they are always usually able to deliver what they promised. It's just really late. This time, straight up, all the numbers are worse.
Yeah, and he gives us an example about, with the exception of 0 to 60, he does admit that's better. The biggest complaint is that range. And I think the problem with the Cybertruck is it's heavy. But that actually is in part also, I think, a feature. Because you've got, I believe this Cybertruck is the best tool for contractors. And not only is it that kind of car that's going to look better, beat up, and messed up, but I actually think it's going to be a lot more durable with the cladding that it has on the side. I don't know how it'll handle with the fingerprints and scratches. I feel like that stainless will scratch just as easily as any other car. But from what we're seeing with people whacking this thing, it seems almost like dent-proof, door ding-proof. It's like, try to door ding me. I want to test that, like a door ding test the Cybertruck. But people are always dropping tools and damaging cars and trucks, and having them look good is valuable for contractors. I think that's a marketing play. And we've talked about that before. But with that said, it's a heavier vehicle. So they should have known that up front, I suppose. And maybe the realistic range of 500 miles of range could have been more appropriately updated up front. But personally, I mean, you add that range extender, now you're probably, $116,000 car. You're at a 440 mile range. That's still pretty good. For 4 years later, the battery technology exists now. Remember, the battery technology for the Cybertruck was just a vision back in 2019. This is pre-COVID, pre-inflation, pre them even figuring out how to manufacture the steel to use on the vehicle. So it's not a surprise to me that the reality is a little worse than expected. But I also think when we're comparing $69,000 original tri-motor pitch to $100,000 vehicle or $116,000 with the extended battery pack, the first set's going to be a premium because people are going to pay it. People just have more money now. The people who are going to pay $100K for a car have more money now. And so I think that's where this is a little opportunistic, and I don't blame Tesla for that. So I don't know that I blame them for that being more expensive. As far as the normal, what is it, the middle version, what are they calling that?
The long range
We've got beast mode. I don't know if they're calling it long range. I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's the all-wheel drive.
It's the all-wheel drive version. That's right. The cheaper one is the two-wheel drive. I don't think that's horribly off from expectations. It's not off of at least inflation-adjusted expectations. We should put it that way. So I'm not too offended by the pricing. Did he really have anything else to say, though, other than battery range and pricing? Part of me wonders if he's just been reading too many Twitter comments of people complaining about it.
Yeah.
And sort of like aligning to what everybody else is complaining about.
That's possible, yeah. So obviously range, we talked about range plenty just now. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the Rivian actually weighs more than the Cybertruck and has a longer range if you don't count the additional battery pack.
Interesting.
So there's that.
Okay.
They did also, he mentioned towing capacity. So Tesla promised a 14,000 pound towing capacity, and we're only seeing 11. Although it's interesting,
that's fair.
I think I've noted this before, the 11,000 pound towing capacity is true for the Cybertruck, like for the Cyber Beast one, as well as that kind of middle tier one. So I'm
Interesting.
curious because I feel like with an additional motor, you should be able to tow more, right?
You'd think that's interesting. Yeah, you'd have so much more capability. So I wonder if there's another limitation on the frame of the vehicle, that it's not the torque requirement here. Instead, it's maybe the stability of the car. So that's the other thing. You go in a turn at 80 miles an hour towing. I mean, hopefully you're not. Hopefully you're going 65, right? But people are going to do it. You don't want the thing to tip over. Or the trailer to take you out of control. Now, it's a heavy vehicle, so it should be okay. Low center of gravity with a structural battery pack. But I wonder if there's another limitation that's squeezing that down. By the way, on Rivian, I went through their earnings again this morning. They are 100% financing their survival from shareholders.
Wow.
So you've got about a $500 million burn per quarter. And I'm like, oh, look, they have 18 months of cash left. So then I look at their cash flow statement. Where did they get their 18 months of funding? Convertible bonds.
Oh, no.
Full dilution of shareholders, which, again, it makes sense. But like as a shareholder in Rivian, you've got to know that.
Yeah.
It's just you keep buying any shares you hold of them, you're getting a smaller and smaller pie, which they're not expected to be profitable until like 2027, 2028. So we have to be real here as well. Would you rather buy a car of a non-profitable company that may never be profitable, which is at a higher risk of bankruptcy, which means your long-term service and resale ability and your long-term depreciation could be substantially worse for you in the long term, rather than essentially investing in an ecosystem where you're investing with a profitable vehicle and a profitable company? See, a profitable company is not just important for the shareholders, it's for the owners of the vehicles as well. So when a company goes bankrupt, it's a pain in the butt to get cars, longer term service. The resale value plummets because people have that concern as well. I'd rather have a Tesla all day long because, I mean, I was literally clicking next year on the terminal. And like, no projections at all of them going profitable through 2027 or 8. They might not be profitable the entire decade.
Do you know if Amazon and Ford still have any investments in Rivian?
That's a really good question. No, I don't know that. I'm sure they do, because I remember when in 2022 they took the massive losses. Amazon actually showed negative EPS because of their investments into Rivian, because the stock went from 150 down to like 9. So they wrote down massive losses, which interestingly for Amazon, tax benefit.
Yeah, you're right.
So they still hold a share. I mean, like, you don't want to lose that much money, but they took the tax benefit. So part of me wonders if that's just sort of a way of trying to say they're still on the innovative front. Look, we're innovating. We're investing in startups. That was just the VC realm. You had to be exposed to everything. And they're trying to secure vehicles, obviously, as well for their last mile delivery. And you think they'd get into vehicles too, but I think they're only doing that through other investment partnerships. Interesting to note, though, the partnerships between SpaceX now launching Amazon rockets and payloads. Do you hear about that? Or Bezos payloads, I should say, not Amazon. But that is interesting because just last week in the New York Times Dealbook podcast with Andrew Ross Sorkin, he was like, hey, what do you think about Jeff Bezos and their rocket endeavors? And Elon's like, if I could push a button and delete them as competition, I wouldn't do it. I like them. I support them. A week later, it turns out SpaceX has a contract with them, and they're paying SpaceX to take their payload to space.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's always like there's a lot more going on than Elon just being, Mr. All Generous. Like, I wouldn't delete my competition. A week later, you find out he's got a multi-million-dollar contract to take their payload to
be fair, even if they didn't have the contract, I wouldn't delete them either, because it's like going to the bar with your slightly uglier friend. Like it just makes you look better, better as long as they exist. Yeah. But Marquez also brought up the size of the truck. It is about 5% smaller.
They did say it wasn't like the original one wouldn't fit in a standard garage. There was some problem with that, eh?
Yep. And you would need, because it crosses that 80-inch width, you're going to start to need those amber lights on the hood to show that you have like oversized.
Wide load.
Yeah, the wide load, exactly.
Yeah, so you don't want that.
They don't want that, no.
So, like, practically here, it's a faster car. They didn't promise steer-by-wire.
Right.
You're getting structural battery. You have the option of getting nearly to that 500-mile range, 444-ish, with that battery pack. And yeah, it's more expensive for the first adopters. But are we really going to quibble about that 60 miles and the price after this level of inflation and the vehicle coming to reality? I think it's a little silly. But
Yeah, the Bears will. There's always
the
something
Bears
to
will.
complain
That's
about.
true.
Yeah.
Gordon's not happy. We should go visit Gordon. We should do a podcast with Gordon.
Okay.
You know, we
are you
visited
free
him.
next week?
Yeah.
Let's
You know,
do
we
it.
visit. Well, I got a test next Saturday. So
That's
But
right.
after that, we should go visit Gordon, North Carolina. Go to his house and confront him. We should go confront him with the Cybertruck. I don't want to drive it there. It'd be kind of interesting to go visit him, man. I think he still has the $24 price target for Tesla.
No.
Yeah. He is the lowest on the street. If you go into like Cap IQ or Refinitiv and you sort analyst price target by low to high, he's the low.
That's a wild number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Marquez also, he was on another podcast. He was with Top Gear and Jason Camisa, who's the guy from Haggerty that I was showing yesterday. Those three parties were the ones who got the early access to the Cybertruck. So these guys have like the biggest Cybertruck video so far.
Yeah.
They sat down and they actually did a podcast together. And I was watching part of that today. It was pretty interesting.
Oh, nice. Okay. What? Any big criticisms? Or are they all excited to get it?
They were mostly excited as a group. I think Marquez's like individual podcast that he did by himself, I think that one had a little bit more, although that was very balanced. I think this pod was more just like positive, more bullish in general.
Yeah, I think most people probably consuming Cybertruck content are either Tesla investors or they can't wait to get their hands on one. Although there are a lot of Tesla investors who think it's ugly and won't buy it.
True.
But you're usually one of those two camps. So either way, you hope it does well.
There's also, I think a lot of the young generation, they like Teslas. Like there's less of that hate that comes from kind of our age group and older. So there's a lot of kids who, you know, they want Tesla to be their first car and they're following kids these days. Well, back in my day, But I do think there's a lot of like the youth following Tesla there too.
Yeah, that's interesting. You got to move it. Like I asked Jack, what car do you want? He doesn't want a Lambo. He wants a Tesla. I'm like, why, Jack? Self-driving.
Really?
Yep. Max, he doesn't. I mean, he's 3 years basically younger, 2.5 years younger. Oh no, I still want the orange Lambo.
Orange Lambo.
Yeah.
Just get a McLaren.
All right, get a job, man.
Yeah. You told him that's like you're gonna have to buy one yourself. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
He's down to work for it. All right. So we do have a holiday update coming out for all of our cars, all the Teslas that are already on the road.
Okay.
Wanted to go over some of the features on that because this was a very hyped update. I don't necessarily know that it's going to live up to the hype because it's one of those like Elon, like this is going to be the best thing ever. You're not going to believe this, but there are some cool things. Game changers, man, like custom lock sounds.
To make it sound like a screaming goat.
If you want to.
I miss when they had the party horn.
Yeah.
That was a fun time because I could roll around the neighborhood and I would just spam the horn. And it was great.
Move,
I loved it.
bitch. Get out the
You could do
way.
that. Yeah,
I would have done that
The
one.
different settings here was
My
great.
Model Y is such an early Y. It doesn't actually have external speakers, so
Oh.
I never got that feature.
Bummer.
No megaphone, none of that. Anyway, another feature labeled as LAN party on wheels. You remember LAN parties?
Sync the front and back.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you could have like play against somebody sitting in your backseat as long as you're parked. Did you ever go to LAN parties?
Oh yeah, World of Warcraft LAN parties.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, network switch in the middle. Everybody plugs in and let's go.
Those are the good old times.
I can't believe I feel like there were more LAN parties when people's like internet speeds were 8 megabits a second for the most expensive $200 or $300 a month version with like 1 megabit up. We had LAN parties then, but now you don't have LAN parties.
Yeah, because it's so inconvenient to leave your
Yeah,
house.
that's true. I gotta move my computer. Back then it was gaming laptops. That's how, as you saw a lot of people get around, they'd hook up an external monitor with a gaming laptop.
Well, I've had some where we would bring our PCs. Like, I've done that too.
Oh, wow.
You know, it's funny. I was talking to Ken, I think it was like a week ago, our lawyer, and I was talking about like when I met him earlier this year. I was like, was I here for like real estate or like what was I doing? He's like, no, you wanted to play Rust with the guys, and I was like, but I do that from home. He's like, yeah, you wanted to do it in person. It's like, that is why I was here. That's right.
It's so much more fun in person.
It's way more fun. Yeah. All right. They part of the update too. They have Bluetooth functionality for the rear screen only now. So if someone's watching, like your kids are watching movies in the back, they don't have to play through the speakers to annoy you too.
Oh, that's great. That's actually really good.
They can put on their own headphones.
Yeah, so you can Bluetooth into your own like Apple AirPods or whatever. That's great.
Yep. And they've integrated with Apple Podcasts now too, so you get Apple Podcasts on your Tesla.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I wish they had CarPlay. Like
Do you?
the Apple Maps, they've gotten so good.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
actually.
you know, even Android's agreeing with that. Wow.
And Apple Maps has been killing it. When they first came out, I was like, no, this is never. But they've been killing it. I want a Waze integration because I use Waze.
Oh, that'd be nice. Nobody does that though. Nobody has a Waze integration in the car. Just the app. But that I do like that. The and you could see the other drivers on it, other Wazers or whatever.
You can leave comments. And I use both. I'll turn on my Tesla map to navigate because that'll pre-map me to superchargers. But then I'll have my phone displaying Waze the whole time when I do road trips. It's worth it, man.
Speaking of trips, cop reported ahead or whatever.
It's very useful. But speaking of trips, they actually have a feature now where you can set it up on your phone and send it to your vehicle. So instead of having to plan these trips to the different superchargers once you get to your car, you can actually tune into that from your phone and see in advance what superchargers you're going to hit.
Oh, that's nice. Okay. Yeah. Good.
And then the very next one might make my Waze comment obsolete because they're actually going to add things like speed cameras and different traffic signs to the maps.
Oh, but those are mapped, I would imagine. If it's mapped out,
Yes, you're right,
Waze is so cool because it's
Dynamic.
yeah, and it's been out for 10 years, man. It's it's been around for a while, but it's great because your user reported cop ahead or whatever. It's fantastic. It's so useful. Really, car on the side of the road, traffic hazard, whatever. That real time is where it's at. Especially since FSD, frankly, doesn't notice stuff on the ground that you don't want to run over.
Potholes, roadkill, speed bumps, it doesn't see them.
Sheets of plywood, man.
Yeah.
Sheets of plywood coming up. It's always the exits when you're leaving Home Depot. Sheets of plywood on the highway. And I don't want to drive over that. It's going to take a chunk out of your tire, I feel like. FSD don't see it.
Nope. So, yeah, you're right about that. But if you do get in a gnarly accident, there is automated 911 calls now.
That's like OnStar back in the day.
Yeah. It's if the airbags deploy, emergency services get called right away.
Nice.
One people have been complaining about is the blind spot monitoring, where right now the way you do it, you can, I actually kind of like it, but a lot of people hate on it, that you could see a 3D view of where all the cars are around you. Yeah. And if you turn a signal, they'll turn red. And I have it set up so that your camera turns on as well.
Yep.
Well, now they've actually got the, if you turn on your signal, there's going to be a red, the side of your screen is going to glow red to show you that there's somebody there. So you don't really have to look at it. You can see it with the corner of your eye.
I like that.
They're adding that.
Why would people hate on that? That sounds great. Man, the more signals, the better. I actually liked in the Cybertruck preview how they had a little light on the left side that was your blind spot monitor, because I still have a tendency of doing the look.
The shoulder check.
Yeah, and so if the screen's over here and I'm doing this, I don't see this anyway.
Yeah. See, that is for the Tesla Roadster, I got to do more of a check the mirror, check my blind spot, hope no one's behind the buttress.
Yep.
Do a little prayer and then just kind of
Yeah.
So, very different.
You almost you two-part it. One, no honks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you've driven this car before. So they do. I love it. They do have that, which is cool. They're adding more Sentry camera angles. Right now, you have 5 front, back, both sides.
Oh, so your battery can drain twice as fast.
Let's go. Only 20% faster, but yes, you got the side pillar cameras now too for more angles.
I look at it and please somebody steal the car.
I get content.
No, I get a new one. Yeah. Insurance.
Yeah.
You pay a deductible. I get a brand new car.
What would you get? Another S Plaid?
I got my down payment on my Cybertruck.
All right. And what would you do in the meantime?
Dude, I don't drive, man.
I know
it's so crazy. Just take Lauren's car, or my dad. We've got my Black X. I can ride that one.
Yep.
We've got my dad rarely uses that. We've got Lauren's car. She rarely uses that. Or just ride with you guys. The only place I go is the airport.
Oh, you went to Trader Joe's once recently.
Yeah, I'm doing that again. That's where I picked up salmonella.
Lesson learned.
I wasn't expecting it. The one time, man, I go grocery shopping. But you know what? I'm happy about that because I think somebody would have felt really bad if they bought and I got sick.
Yeah, you're right.
So I feel better. It was me that got myself sick. So nobody feels bad.
Oh. A couple more updates and we're done. They have a light show.
It's just a shitty situation.
Light show added updates to some of their games. And, unfortunately, I can't share my screen, but high fidelity park assist, it 3D maps out not just the cars around you now, but every structure. So this is a 3D reconstruction.
Does it pop open and you can turn the computer around?
Let me turn this around.
We'll do the old school screen share. It's literally where you turn it around. That's amazing.
That's pretty cool. Anyway,
Awesome.
that's it for those Tesla updates.
Nice. Awesome. What about is the update already out? The holiday update? It should be. The holidays are now, man.
That's a good question. My dad recently told me he got an update on his, but I've been checking. I don't have one on mine
Yeah,
yet.
I got an update yesterday, and I haven't noticed like a holiday feature. But then again, you know, we'll see. Maybe I didn't look closely enough. I keep seeing Omar complaining that the updates are meh on Twitter. Every time I feel like I open up or an X, Omar's he's quote tweeting another Tesla software update. He's like, meh.
Yeah.
He's like really excited about the next big update.
It's always 2 weeks away, though.
We'll get it in 2 weeks, I guess. All right. What else we got? Is it on to Israel maybe then, eh?
Sure.
Yeah, well, and Putin's running for re-election.
Putin is running for re-election.
Is that a surprise? I thought
No, not even a little
Did they
bit.
even hold elections? I didn't think they did.
They do, and it's crazy because he always gets like 110% of the votes. Yeah, but he's running. I think they're a 6-year cycle, so he's going to be running for 2024, which means when he's elected, he's going to be in office until 2030.
Wow. Yeah, Putin around till 2030, man. I think he's probably honestly just going to die in office.
He has no choice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's either you die in office or you step down, you lose all your protection, and you die immediately after stepping down from office.
That's a good point.
He's got no choice. That's the best case for him. Yeah, so moving on to Israel, a couple of things. So Biden administration has been making and they've been doing this since October, it turns out, but working out their post-game plan for Gaza and who's going to be like taking over, so to speak, because Israel, as we know, wants to basically take over Gaza and say, well, this is us now. We're going to be our security, our everything. But the Biden administration doesn't want that. They're still pushing
It's not going to work.
It
It won't work. There's no way in hell Palestinians are going to be okay with an Israeli-led government. They'll never trust it. Never. I mean, in America, people don't even trust the reports that we get, like the labor report. It's rigged, man. You know, it's amazing how much of a belief there is in that. Imagine how it would be if your arch enemy that killed your family was now your government. Come on, man. It'll never work.
So what the U.S. wants to do is take the Palestinian Authority, that's the party that's in charge of the West Bank, and have them basically run Gaza Strip. They're the ones that initially go back more than 10 years, 15 years ago. The populace voted them out in favor of Hamas, and since then Hamas has insisted on staying regardless of votes.
That's what happens is Hamas is a political party, so anytime you get a victor of an area that wants to establish their own government like America and Afghanistan, you leave a power vacuum of what people truly want. You have a facade power in place, like this faux government. Yes, this is where you get your driver license in Afghanistan now. It is through the rubber-stamped U.S. government. Nobody really respects that form of government to the point where the second the Taliban come in, they would actually stand to fight for it. And that's why Afghanistan got run over in a matter of 2 days, 48 hours. Well, who's going to stand and fight for a puppet government they don't trust or believe in, or that they chose? The people have to choose the government. So what you really need is a refined two-state solution. I think you need, realistically, I think everybody can agree with a substantially larger buffer zone. A no-go DMZ, demilitarized zone, just like you have between North Korea and South Korea. And it's just literally like, you go there, you get arrested. On both sides. Both sides should respect that. And then, now it's harder for one side to shoot rockets because you're so much further away. Now you could set your Patriot missile batteries instead of in people's neighborhoods and where they are on the Israeli side in the DMZ. And each side has their defenses, and it's all the way around the Gaza Strip. West Bank, not so much of an issue right now because that's not where your attacks are springing up from as rapidly. So I think you don't necessarily need a DMZ there. You need one in the Gaza Strip. And they need their own government. Now, how do you hold free and fair elections there when people can't even shower or have water or enough food? Well, that's a problem. You just want to survive right now. It's terrible.
Yeah. Humanitarian aid. We were so optimistic about that the other week. There's a ceasefire. There's no humanitarian aid going in right now. Everything's a war zone again, unfortunately. But so that's the U.S. plan, is to have the Palestinian Authority. Now they're calling it like a revitalized or a revamped version of the Palestinian Authority, because as it is right now, most of the populace is actually not a fan. They say the PLA they're out of touch.
Well, of course.
They're
I mean, look
weak,
what just
they're
happened.
corrupt. Yeah.
I mean, if they had a strong government, Hamas would not have been able to launch this attack. That would have been crushed. The reason you get these little terror cells that fester up is because you have weak institutions. But how do you have a non-corrupt government when you're in some of the worst poverty you see across the entire world? Your per capita income over there was like, what, $800 a year?
That's insane to think about.
$800 per year. And people are like, oh, but everything's less expensive. That's bullshit. You can't survive on $800 a year. It's not that much less expensive to buy your food to justify living on $800 a year. You're living on $2 a day, man. A loaf of bread's still going to cost $1. So what, 50% of my daily income is supposed to go to a loaf of bread? It's ridiculous. So there's not enough prosperity there.
Yeah.
So what you actually really need is a DMZ and then capitalism. And the Palestinians have to be the leaders of that entrepreneurial revolution, to where individual people, instead of working in the military, say, I have an opportunity to become a developer, to become a contractor, to become a real estate agent, to, build cybersecurity or infrastructure or whatever in that region. That's what you need. Entrepreneurs to lead a capitalist revolution there. But in order to do that, you need systems, because a capitalist needs the license to do it, the permit to do it. And so you need that partnership with, yes, the United States or Israel, but still with entrepreneurs, I think, leading that change in a safe manner. You can't do it if it's not safe. If somebody was able to say, hey, Kevin, you can guarantee, I probably wouldn't do it anyway because it's a long flight, but if somebody is like, Kevin, you could guarantee that we will help facilitate you having 10 rental developments where you could provide housing for poor Gazans or whatever. We just need an entrepreneur who can coordinate the contractors and coordinate the work and supervise the work and do it. And we'll subsidize it. So that way people have quality homes to live in. We just need an entrepreneur who says, I will make sure it's safe. I'll make sure it's coordinated. I'll put the systems in place. That's what you need. You need people who are incentivized to go there to feel safe and actually make it work to provide quality housing for people. Again, it's too far away for me, but if I were closer in the same situation, we'd be like, absolutely. Let's do, like, if I was an Israeli or whatever, yeah, let's do it. Or you're a Palestinian, whatever. Absolutely. That's the way forward, I think. But you can't prop it up with just, Palestinian-led government housing. It's not going to work. You need entrepreneurship. You need capitalism.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is obviously overreaching into America with, we saw the congressional hearing just the other day with, Penn, MIT, and Harvard. The president's refusing to say that a call for genocide on Jews goes against their bullying or harassment or otherwise, any other policies.
Doubling down on this is stupid. They should make such a simple policy. Hey, you're not allowed to call for the death of anyone. How hard is that? So, but then I think you could go a step further and say, well, is Twitter removing people calling for death on Twitter? I don't know. X,
If you're calling for genocide, that kind of oversteps on free speech, It goes back to that.
I think that's like an international crime.
Yeah, it goes back to that the paradox of like tolerating intolerance. If you keep tolerating intolerance, eventually there will only be intolerance. You have to be intolerant towards intolerance. That's where you have to draw that line.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody's got to be intolerant. Oh, interesting.
But at least, go ahead.
I was just thinking, that would be an interesting thing to evaluate. Well, you've got everybody on X calling for all this censorship of people calling for genocide. If I go on X now, am I going to find people calling for genocide? And then if it's like, oh, well, no, that's free speech on Twitter, then how is that different for the universities? Because if the universities shouldn't allow somebody to say, oh, let's get together and, support genocide, well, then neither should X. It should apply equally. That's interesting. I kind of want to do like a search, but what do you look for? Like, what do you search? Like,
yeah, you're going to end up on a list.
Yeah. I don't know. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Is that wrong? Should it not apply equally?
I think you're right. Where it gets into gray area for me is like, it's supposed to be like an international audience, right? So you can't really police but maybe you can. It's a U.S. company at the end of the day. Yeah, I mean, genocide is genocide. Calling for the death of other people, that should draw the line. Then again, you take the other side. What if people are calling for the death of Nazis? Do you still go, oh, that's wrong? Like,
right, because there are plenty of people who are like, you should call for the death of all of Hamas or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you have to, I think there should just be a very clear rule.
Okay.
Where if you're supporting the death of any group, that maybe isn't allowed.
That's
I think
reasonable.
that would be reasonable.
Also, why are we slowing down over Fresno, man? We should be speeding up.
Yikes. Does Fresno have the Stockton reputation?
I
Which
know
one's
Stockton better. Well,
In your take?
I think
I was just in Stockton for the first time.
yeah. It's not the greatest. I mean, people go to Stockton because it is more affordable. It's relatively close to the capital while still being close to the Bay Area. I don't know that Fresno has that going for it necessarily. I do know friends who've come from Fresno. Most of them will like crap talk it, but if you say anything bad, they'll like kind of defend it. They still love Fresno, so
Yeah.
I don't know much about Fresno. I
When
probably roll the
campaigned
dice
in
there.
Fresno, the people were wonderful.
That's
People
true.
were very nice. And they have, as is normal, every area has its own problems, its benefits, whatever else. But you had very normal Californians there. And when I say normal Californians, I mean like those who were fed up with Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
Who were like, it's time for some changes here. Didn't we just hit a $68 billion deficit in California?
Record deficit. I was mind blown when you told me that.
You went from surplus in 21 to deficit in 22 to yet another record deficit now 23. Not a surprise, and I called that during the campaign. I'm like, they are going to mismanage us into the worst deficits ever. And sure enough, here we are. Well, it blows my mind where all the money is going. I know why they had a surplus in 21. It's because all the capitalists were making crazy money on SPACs and IPOs.
Yeah.
Paying big old taxes on
Good
those.
revenue for the government. Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's crazy.
But yeah, that's California for you. So I guess that's the problem with the back to this free speech thing. When you go, well, so if you're not allowed to call for genocide on a Harvard campus, then you should not be allowed to call for the death of, like you said, a Nazi or a Jew or anyone on Twitter or any group,
A terrorist organization,
even
anyone.
Hamas.
Yeah.
And then does that turn into, okay, well, are you allowed to say or sing From the River to the Sea, which has the implication of calling for the death and eradication of all Jews?
Yeah, depending on which river and which sea they're talking about. But
Right,
yeah,
yeah,
you're right. That is
So-
what that means. Yeah.
So in that case, where do you draw the line? Are you not allowed to sing the song? Or are you not allowed to say, yeah, let's get together and kill this person? Right? Like, where do you draw the line? And then you get into, do you potentially go right back to where you were with Twitter pre-Musk? Where it's like, all right, whatever the FBI tells us to censor,
Yeah. That's a tough one, man.
My simplified solution, and I know it's oversimplified, but it's, look, here's a bot. The bot says, if you chant anything that implies genocide, it's hidden behind a banner, a little banner this calls for the killing and censor or of a particular group of people.
Can you do individuals? Is that still okay?
Individuals, like that person did, therefore they're not able to say anything anymore.
Well, I mean, like, instead of you can't call for the death of Hamas, but this particular Hamas leader, like, death to him. Can you do that?
Well, I don't think that. I mean, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess that'd be another thing to evaluate. I think calling for the death of anybody probably. I mean, I'm a big fan of free speech in general, but the point here is if everybody's mad about colleges supporting free speech, see, like when the colleges do it, it's bad when they support free speech. But when Twitter supports free speech, everybody loves that. So it's a really difficult situation. How do you pick? And that's where I think, well, it's very simple rules based. Look, no calling for the death of anyone, or you could say whatever you want. You have to pick.
Yeah, you're right.
Society should decide that.
So, Claudine,
Maybe there should be a poll. All Twitter users, do we want anyone calling for the death of anybody else to be behind a banner? And the same thing for the colleges. Do we want people to be able to do this on our campuses? And then everyone can vote. Let the people decide. I'm a big fan of that.
reasonable. Claudine Gay, who's the Harvard president, she was one of the people who was before Congress. She was interviewed by the Harvard Crimson, which is their newspaper. She's actually very apologetic for what she said. She said, "I am so sorry." And I got some quotes from her here on my screen. "When words amplify distress and pain, I don't know how you could feel anything but regret." And so on Wednesday, she tried to do some damage control.
Yeah.
She says, "There's some who have confused the right to free expression with the idea that Harvard will condone calls for violence against the Jewish students. Let me be clear. Calls for violence or genocide against the Jewish community or any religious ethnic group are vile. They have no place at Harvard. And those who threaten our Jewish students will be held to account." But
it is frustrating because everybody's now going around, "Oh, you're a Jew hater. You're a Jew hater." I don't think actually any of these people really are. Like, do I think, like, I know people don't like her, but do I actually think she hates Jews? No. Do people actually think Elon hates Jews? No.
There are people out there who do. There is real anti-Semitism in the U.S., but I don't think she's one of them.
Do you see it often? Like, I certainly don't see it in person.
Yeah, I don't see it in person.
On my feeds. I don't see it in the news. I don't see it in the mainstream media or YouTube or citizen journalists or whatever. Like, I personally don't see it that much. I do see frustration over killing children in Palestine.
Sure.
But that also substantially pisses me off.
Sure, yeah.
That doesn't make me anti-Jew. That makes me think there needs to be a better way for the Israeli military to handle to get done what they need to get done. You think we'd have some more precision than carpet bombing, basically, but
there's a lot of anti-government or sometimes anti-Zionism, which some people will argue is still anti-Semitic, but I think they're different.
Yeah, like anti-Zionism is being anti the expansion of the Jewish state. But I don't know that. Is Israel trying to expand the state, or are they just trying to root out Hamas? Their official stance appears to be, we're just trying to root out Hamas, which that's not Zionistic. That's just, we're trying to fight our enemy that just attacked us. So you can't blame that on one hand. But on the flip side, does that justify carpet bombing everyone? Probably not.
Yeah.
So there has to be a better way.
Yeah. In her case, in Claudine's case, the damage is kind of already done because Congress has a probe launched against all three of these universities now.
Well, that's going to be like the Republican committees or whatever because
I'm sure.
It's popular.
Yes.
That's the popular thing to do right now because anytime you hear college, you hear liberal institution.
Yeah.
Those are like synonymous. College is liberal institution. So automatically, if you're a conservative, anything you could do to bag on the colleges gets you voters and supporters. It's just like, there's this guy, Jeff Jackson. I actually think he'll be president one day. I think he's a brilliant person, and he's very reasonable, and hopefully he doesn't get corrupted by politics. I actually didn't know what party he was. I listened to some of his stuff on Twitter. I've been following him since he had like 3,000 subscribers. He's got like millions now. People love him. Jeff Jackson. I think he's North Carolina or whatever. I didn't know he was a Democrat. But the reason I realized he was a Democrat was... which I am too, I'm a registered Democrat, but I see myself as so in the middle.
Yeah.
People are like, "You're not a Democrat, you're a Republican in Democrat clothing." And I'm like, what's a label, man? It's like, it's what's on my voter registration. I'm pretty clear with my opinions. People can kind of make their opinions as to how I feel, but he introduced a bill to tax institutions who buy real estate. And I'm like, that's his way of trying to make housing more affordable. And I'm like, bro, build more houses. That's how to make housing more affordable. Yeah. Make it easier. Like, why
is nobody running with that?
I don't know. I ran for governor under the thesis that you should have one permitting body in the entire state to streamline permitting. Because the reality is the furnace that you need in San Francisco isn't that different from the furnace that you need in San Diego. 90% of these rules can be streamlined. I understand there are going to be parts that are slightly different with liquefaction zones and earthquake zones and local design overlays. That's fine. That's the fringe 10%. But the bulk of permitting should follow the California Building Code. So you really don't need these different agencies at every single city level. And then they're poorly funded too because the cities have a lot harder time raising money than the state. The state just gets bailed out by the federal government, by the Biden admin anyway. So am I really personally worried about that $69 billion deficit in California? No. I'll just end up getting bailed out by Biden. And that's the way the game works. So, and then all taxpayers pay for it, which is a pisser because, people in Texas are like, what the hell? I don't want to pay for those California. You're right to say that. That's why I ran for governor. Balance this crap. But build more homes. Then you have more people with more affordable housing who, guess what, pay more taxes because you have more people paying in. So that's when I realized Jeff Jackson was a Democrat. I looked and I'm like, okay, he has to do that because that's how you get votes. You don't get votes by saying, let's streamline construction. You get votes by saying, let's punish the capitalists who are trying to bring the housing in the first place.
I also wonder, I wish I could look this up, what percentage of new construction that is built in California is low income? Because at the end of the day, when you have like the special low income housing, that's not really doing much to help housing as a whole for the average person.
No, it helps people now, and it's a quick bandage. But in the long term, it actually exacerbates unaffordable housing because anybody who's not in the voucher programs has to pay a lot more for rent.
So you don't want to ever get out.
Of course not.
Yeah.
So you're disincentivized from actually building your career or building your income or your net worth. It's sad. You get trapped. Like somebody who's in a rent-controlled unit in Los Angeles doesn't want to move because they might be paying $1,500 in rent for something that's market rent $2,500. So they're incentivized not to move. They're also incentivized to make less to continue to qualify for the programs in the first place.
Yeah, it's sad.
There's a lot of inefficiencies.
Yeah, it does.
So, well, that's hopefully we'll see what Israel does with their plans. But it is actually good to see the U.S. push back a little bit, and it's probably a feature, not a bug, that you've got Congress not able to send funding over for Israel anymore because you're waiting for Republicans to come to terms with Democrats, and that's not going to get picked up until January or February now. So maybe that'll lead to a little bit more. I wouldn't be surprised, actually, if the truce we had was partly inspired because of, the U.S. funding is slowing down. Can't spend more. We got to be a little more conservative with all these bombs. It's not sad. I still think of every explosion you see on TV, 15 people.
Yeah,
just half of a classroom around you, gone,
dead.
evaporating.
Yep.
Sad. You got to humanize it, It's hard in war.
It helps a lot when you go through and you watch uncensored, unfiltered videos. Like, I know it's hard to do, but it changes things from just being numbers and like hypothetical debates to like, holy crap, like real people are getting
like when you go on Telegram and it's like, what is this?
I wish more of that would kind of show up on TV, to be honest. I understand why not. It's traumatizing for everyone. But the fact is, it's only traumatizing because you can relate to how horrible it is. You should be able to relate to that.
It's so horrible. Yeah. What else we got, Mikey?
All right. Little bit of AI I want to touch on.
Yeah, let's hear. The Gemini update.
I want to start with that spicy
tell me about
one.
the Gem Spice, man.
I remember yesterday on the pod, I was like, this disclaimer at the beginning feels important. Like, it's worded in a way where it's like, we've been recording. We got this. So I took it as like, okay, they've probably done a lot of recording and only took the best excerpts. Well, there's a little bit more than that. There's an Ars Technica article that I read that talked about, they straight up called it fabricated. So
I kind of believe it, man. I think all this AI stuff is fundraising and stock pumping because after that presentation, Google stock pumped.
I bet.
And I'm like, they know what they're doing.
It was Google's attempt to save face because ChatGPT has been killing them.
Yes.
So apparently the prompts that they mentioned, those were real prompts, and the imagery you're seeing was real in the sense that they sent still screenshots to the AI, not video. And the prompts were not spoken, they were typed. And yes, they picked out the best ones out of the group. So it's a little bit misleading. Everything you saw, like those, it did respond to those prompts the way that it did. It's just those prompts were not given to it in the way that you would have imagined.
Right, because they're making it imply that it's this live video interaction that you're having. But realistically, I mean, I could upload a still image of that rubber ducky to GPT and then have it give me an opinion just like that too.
Yep.
In other words, it's the way they stitched it together is actually highly misleading.
Yep.
Man, that's why most of this VC stuff is a scam, dude. But there's a reason why most of these companies, those VCs, they lose on 9 out of 10 bets because they invest based off those sort of videos. That's their DD.
Yeah.
I got really jaded after all the DD that they did for FTX.
Your DD should never be a marketing video from that company or anyone who has any horse in the race, right?
But I mean, think about it. This is what they do. It's like, if you're a venture capital company and let's say you're best friends with the person who just founded Pika, let's say. So you go, hey man, let's fundraise for you. You're in the first round to fundraise. You're just going to dump your shares to the next round person. So you don't really need to do the DD. That's the way it functions in VC. You just need to do enough DD to convince the other guy that you have the shares to dump on the next guy at a higher valuation. That's sad. See, like for HouseHack, for example, I want ideally all of my investors to be able to ride through to IPO. You know, like they're the original VCs who got in at like 1-to-1. Like, I don't know, that is like a victory. Hopefully we make it there.
I agree. So that was the Gemini one. The other one is just to touch up on Grok. I was stoked that we got access yesterday. As of today, everyone who has Premium Plus has access to Grok. So we're not that special. In the next week or so, even the non-premium, every English user is going to have access to it.
Okay.
And they're saying Japanese is going to be the next priority because that's actually the second largest user base of X, apparently, is Japanese speakers.
You know why?
Why?
They like the US dollar.
But why X?
That's where they get their US dollar news.
Okay.
I'm guessing. I mean, I'm very niched into like the financial industry. So as far as maybe, because I know there are other users as well, I do think there is an Asian fascination with the American culture.
Well, there's also an American fascination of the Asian culture too.
It's true.
Yeah.
Like K-pop, big deal.
Cute boys with shiny, colorful pants. Yep.
But you've got way more Asians than you have, or people who live in. I should clarify, people who live in Asian countries, which is going to be, you know, I mean, all the way inclusive of like India. You know, you've got Japan, the Koreas, the Philippines, China. You've got way more of this world in terms of just sheer population. I mean, I wonder what the pure population of all of the Asian countries together is. And it's gonna be 10 times the American population.
Yeah, that's got to be like half the world's population, I would imagine.
Yeah, population, because we have to be clear. It's not just China.
Yeah,
You know?
China is massive. India, I think, is more populous than China.
4.5. Look at
Over
that.
half.
4.5. That's more than half of the
And
world
that's as of
population.
2018.
That's no kidding.
I think they're growing faster than the West is.
You have to subtract COVID off. But although with those Chinese lockdowns, I don't think they lost as many people as in America.
Well, they wouldn't tell you if they did either way.
That's true.
We have no way
That's
of
a good
knowing
point.
that.
You can't really trust that data. China deaths COVID. I'm curious if they're reporting a lower number, having 4 times the population, if they're reporting a lower number. But anyway, there's a massive population. I mean, this fascination for America is global because it's just a richer economy. It's the richest economy in the world, the American economy. So, of course, there's going to be an obsession with that, the entrepreneurship of America and the latest trends in America.
And Hollywood's a powerful tool.
Yeah,
that has a lot of influence there, too.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, don't get me wrong. I want to go visit China, Japan, probably all of them. Probably first Japan, and then I'll wait a few years.
China's changed, man.
They're gonna arrest me.
I loved China when I went, but since COVID, a lot has changed.
Really?
To the point that one of my friends that I went with, he stayed there. He's like, screw it, I'm moving back to where my roots are, and he loved it. COVID started. He was basically a prisoner from where he lived. And as soon as he had an opportunity, he left, and he's back in the States right now.
Really?
He left. He had a long-term girlfriend over there. Everything's like, I can't do it. Like, it's gotten crazy. It's not the same China that we visited. When did I visit China? 2015. Wow. It's not the same China.
They've changed. Yeah.
Still really cool. A lot of cool culture. Beautiful. The architecture. Those cities, man. The cities are unbelievably massive.
I can only imagine. Yeah. Well, apparently, according to the World Health Organization, there have been 121,000 deaths since the start of the pandemic in China. Isn't the U.S. over 1 million? I'm pretty sure we're over 1 million. U.S. COVID deaths.
There's no way there were that few.
No, of course not.
No way.
Yeah, 1.15 million.
Yeah, no.
So we're supposed to believe that China has had 1/10 the COVID deaths of the United
We're not
States.
talking rate. We're talking about just like a nominal value, 1/10, despite their massive population.
Yeah, exactly.
I think what's their population like?
Like
5x? 4x?
1.4 divided by 330.
Oh, 1.4, yeah.
Divided by 330. Yeah, that's about 4.6 times. 4.2 times.
And they have 1/10. So we're talking about like a 2% rate compared to the U.S. rate of COVID death. There's no way.
No kidding.
There's no way.
That's a good point. You got to factor all that in. That's 10
way.
times fewer deaths, but 4 times the population. Yeah.
There's no way. All right.
That's China for you.
That's China for you. So hopefully they're saying for Grok, all language access by early 2024. So we'll see. It
But
shouldn't be that hard to
Japanese
implement.
people, a lot of Japanese, I was going to say that I've talked to and still do, they like the US dollar.
That's true. Because it doesn't deflate
As much.
as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
They
well,
had
actually,
like in the 90s, like strong actual deflation
yeah,
that hurt
that's
the
true.
economy.
Yeah, you're right. But then again, yeah, let's see here. You had deflation. I wonder, but deflation from a cash point of view.
You just want to hoard your
that's
cash. You're not
interesting.
investing in anything. You're not
I
letting the
don't
market
know if
grow.
I don't know if we strictly look at it from inflation or deflation. I think they just look at it as from a trading value, like which is becoming more valuable, which is the better investment from a valuation point of view relative to other currencies. And I think the U.S. has been dominating them. So let's go to one. Let's just Google one USD to the Japanese yen over there. Let's find out. Let's get like a little chart. So if I go to max, the dollar to yen.
It's not loading.
Yeah, it's rigged, man. It's rigged. It's fallen. Okay, here we go. Dollar to yen. Okay, so since 2009, the dollar has strengthened relative to the yen since 2009, 55%.
Okay.
However, it came down. Yeah, it was pretty strong. Wait, hold on a second. This is $1. How many Japanese yen can I buy? The more yen I can buy, the weaker the yen.
The weaker the yen, yes.
Yeah, so since about the recession, the dollar's been a great investment. However, the dollar wasn't as great of an investment in the Paul Volcker
80s,
era.
90s,
That kind of
yeah.
makes sense. Interesting. All right, anyway.
All right. Let's end it on a fun one then.
Yeah.
Oxford's got the word of the year, and it's Rizz.
Rizz.
Rizz. You heard Rizz?
No,
Oh,
never.
it's because you don't got Rizz, bro.
What is that?
Rizz, supposedly it comes from charisma. It's like, you know, someone who rizzes the chicks up. You got that Rizz? Shit, he ain't got no Rizz.
Do Gen Z actually look at dictionaries?
I don't think they have any physical books at all. But I do hear Rizz a lot. There's a lot of we're gonna be landing soon. There's a lot of slang that you're probably like you wouldn't even recognize these days. You know what it means? What cap means?
A who?
Cap?
Oh, like a lie?
I was about to say like no
Okay.
cap. You don't know? Okay, yeah. Anyway, this
Cap
topped
hack.
off words
Lie
like
hack.
yeah. This topped off words like Swifty and my favorite
Rizz
one
topped Swifty?
topped Swifty and situationship, which I hear a lot too.
The hell is
It means
that?
exactly what you think it means. It's not an official long-term romantic relationship, but it's a romantic relationship where it's like we're kind of in a situation. Here, let me translate it to millennial. Facebook relationship status, it's complicated.
That's a great one, Dad.
That's it.
Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, licensed real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is neither personalized financial nor real estate advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content we show shall not be deemed endorsed by us. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purposes of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services we may benefit from. I personally operate and actively manage ETF and hold long positions in various securities, potentially including those mentioned in this video. However, I have no relationship to any issuers, nor am I presently acting as a market maker.